Good morning. I think we can start. Surely we don't need to introduce each other. We were all here, was it 2 weeks back? Okay, you are all welcomed. We have got apologies. I've got 3 apologies here from Honorable Magwanise, Honorable Luate, and Honorable Aba. And today all we are going to be doing is to consider the program and adopt it. And the second on the agenda is advertisement of the bill, which needs to be done. I don't know for how long should that be done, and then adoption of the first minutes. I wouldn't be doing it myself. Can I ask Calvin to take us through the draft program?
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, honorable members. So in front of you, you have the program for the ad hoc committee on the General Intelligence Laws Amendment Bill. What we have there for today is consideration of this program, the advertisement of the bill, which we hope to have it out by next weekend. This will have to run for 2 to 3 weeks. So we are hoping that it will run from now to somewhere almost mid-January to allow for public comments, written submissions, etc. Then on Wednesday, 29 November, we're going to have a briefing by SSA on GLAB, also a briefing by the Office of the Chief State Law Advisor. We're going to have those 2 briefings. Then the following day, we're going to have deliberations on the briefings that we would have had the previous day, so that the committee can deliberate on that. Then on Tuesday, 5 December, we have 3 entities that are coming: NICOC, the Office of the Interception Centers, and the Designated Judge of Interception. They are going to give their briefings on the input into GLAB. On Thursday, 7 December, we're going to have the 3 entities, the 2 services, and the Office of the Inspector General of Intelligence. So that will be crime intelligence, then defense intelligence. All of them are going to give the input into GLAB, as you can see there. And we're going to have the 3 of them. Then that will come to sort of like the closing of Parliament. I think this constituency, then holiday, etc. So what we are trying to do is that during the holidays, that will allow for public comments and written submissions, etc. on the bill. When we come back in January, that's when we are planning to have the public hearings as part of the public participation process. Tentatively, what we have now is the 3 urban provinces, but that is subject to what the committee decides to do. The provinces will be Gauteng, Western Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal. What we have done, we have 2 days in each province, beginning in Gauteng. In Johannesburg, we haven't selected the districts because That is still subject to the committee's approval, etc. On the 23rd of January, it will be Gauteng. Tentatively, we have from 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock. That is also subject to change. Then the following day, it will be Gauteng, but now it will be somewhere in Pretoria. And on Tuesday, 30 January, will be KZN. Durban. The following day, 31st January, will be KZN somewhere in Pietermaritzburg. Then on 13 February, it will be the hearings here in the Western Cape, somewhere Mossel Bay, that side of the Western Cape. And 14 February, it will be here in Cape Town. So that will signal the conclusion of our public hearing process. Immediately following that, we're going to have the presentation on the public participation report, which will be done by the team, the support team. They will do the summary, etc., of the public submissions in terms of the written submissions as well as the oral submissions which we get during public hearings. Following from there, on the 21st, which will be 21st February, which will be the following day, we're going to have the responses by the State Security Agency on the issues that were raised in terms of the bill during the public participation process. That we're going to have it here in Parliament. The venue will likely be this venue, but that will be subject to confirmation. Then on 22 February, we're going to have our parliamentary legal services giving input into the constitutionality of the submissions and the responses from the department. Then the following day, which will be Friday, 23rd of February, we're going to have committee deliberations, formal consideration of the bill in terms of the public comments, responses from the department, as well as clause by clause reading. And then we're going to have the consideration of the public participation report, which will include the public hearings, written submissions, etc. Then on 26 February, we're going to have the A list. So formal considerations by the committee and the development of the A list by the legal advisor, our legal advisor here, working together with the one that we'll have from legal services. On 27, which is Tuesday, 27 February, we're going to have deliberations and adoption of the B bill, and consideration of the consideration and adoption of the committee report. On 28 February, we're going to have a clause-by-clause analysis and consideration of the B bill. Then on 1 March, which is the deadline that was given by the NA when the other committee was formed, is a report to the House. Honorable members, you will see that we actually have tight deadlines because we couldn't stretch the program any further. It normally takes about, a year, 6 months to actually have legislation from introduction to where it is passed. But now you can see the period that we have. So you'll see that certain activities will happen in succession, and we're hoping that we are able to do this. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kolobanat, followed by Honorable Lagude, followed by Honorable Hadero with an H.
Thank you. Through you to Calvin, could you explain why it is that from the 20th, we're working half days? We're finishing at 1 o'clock each day. I don't understand. We're so pressed for time. Why are we not working into the afternoons? That's the only query I have. And obviously, I also need time to take this back, all of us, to our caucuses. When is that proposed to happen? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Good morning, colleagues. Honorable Chair, I'm covered with my first question by Honorable Kolabanat. Then the second one is, Honorable Chair, I can see that we are targeting only 3 provinces. Is this not going to cause problems for us? That's the thought.
Abu Hadebe.
Hadebe with an H, just to follow suit on the latter speaker, the Deputy Chief Whip. I'm also concerned about the number of provinces and the days spent in those provinces, considering these are urban provinces. It would have been ideal if, at least in Gauteng, we cover all metros. I'm not sure. I'm raising this on previous experiences. In Kokta, we were found wanting, and we were challenged in court, and we had to redo. Public participation, it's a very sensitive matter, and the extent and the nature of what we are dealing with here, there are a lot of interest. So we must satisfy ourselves that we have dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's, when, particularly on public participation. It would have been ideal if at least half of the provinces, if we're not going to cover all, by half, maybe 5 or 4, 3, but we press for time, Chair. So it then requires of us to work around the clock. If it means meeting on the awkward days and hours, so be it. But let us not render this a futile exercise if we're challenged in court. Thank you.
Honorable Hendricks.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, plenary sessions start at 2 o'clock, and it would be nice if our meetings end before 2 o'clock, except for a Wednesday when it is 3 o'clock. So I think it's important to check on the days that we're doing business, that we are also able to attend plenary sessions, but maybe there are no plenary sessions, so it is fine, and we can even go beyond 3 o'clock. Secondly, I know that our public participation process has to be reformed so that we can get an accurate assessment of how the public feels about this very important bill that is going to affect so many lives. Alzamar feels that there has been a lot of reports that public participation programs are flawed. And in many cases, no one pitches, but I'm sure a lot of people will pitch. I don't want to reflect on the content supervisors that will summarize for us what is happening at the hearings. But I would like to suggest, Chair, that the committee considers that we have professional companies that do surveys to gauge public opinion on the provisions in the bill. And there are some reliable companies that do this research. So I think that it is important that this committee sets an example for the future, for the 7th Parliament, that our public participation programs is not just ticking the boxes, but that we enhance the quality of the public comments by having professional research people doing surveys, and that can be in all 9 provinces, because I already noticed that we're leaving out very important provinces in the public hearings. We're leaving out rural areas. We're leaving out Limpopo, maybe I missed it. And it is important that gap that we have can be addressed by research surveys where there are simple questions where people are asked, do you like clause 1.6? I know that right at the end, this committee goes through this bill clause by clause. And it'd be nice if we have evidence that there is wide consensus on clause 1.6. So when the committee votes on clause 1.6, for example, then, we can argue, but I mean, from the surveys, there is support in the country for clause 1.6, because there may be parties that will object to 1.6, and we don't want to be accused that the governing party is using its numbers to push through 1.6, but then there is research findings by a professional outfit. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. I should think we are stretched for time, and I'm not very sure whether there's any way in which all 9 provinces can be done here. What are we saying? Are we saying we must? Let's start by saying that we agree on the content of the program, but we are sending the staff to go and try and juggle with the dates. Because if we agree with what is in here, and definitely that is what needs to be followed according to the rules. I'm not very sure about professionals to do survey, whether it's part of the process. If it is not, it might not be illegal to do that. But I think with the time, that's my feeling. We've got only 3 months. If we agree that the content as it is, maybe we need to add 1 more province. Let's give a way forward. Stebe, followed by Honorable Zaguti.
Thank you, Chair. I hear what limitations is with time, but if I recall the bill on the education that was done, the public hearings that was done now, was done over weekends. Maybe we must think about and include a weekend if we need to do more provinces, so that we can do it, that there's no comebacks and people come back and take us to court. So let's go out, let's do that, let's get it behind us, and let's not leave it for the 7th Parliament to come again and start all over again. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. That's exactly what I was saying, that the staff will juggle with the dates, because we can't sit here and start looking at the dates. Honorable Zagude, followed by Honorable Kolaba.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I want to agree with the proposal by Honorable Stebe, even though we know that is that time of the year when we are expected to be on the ground, all of us doing our political work. But what we can do is to have this program as soon as possible after the amendments, so that we can populate it in the Chief Whips Forum, so that we have the buy-in of our Chief Whips, because they're the ones who will protect us in our provinces when we are supposed to work maybe overtime over the weekends. Then another thing, Honorable Chair, I want to agree with the content, the way it is. There's nothing wrong with it, but covering more provinces, I think we'll be covering our backs, and especially those provinces with porous borders and everything. We need to cover all of those provinces. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Kolabana.
Yeah, having had a discussion previously about the number of provinces, there are actually, it seems to be regulations of how many a 75 has to do. Now, we can't do 9. I think we have to accept that. We've been asking for this for a term and a half, 5-year term and a half for this. We finally got it at the last minute. It's not our problem. But if we start adding on one here and one there, there's still going to be others that aren't going to be done. So what we need to know is there a possibility of a court challenge? So I think it's the legal aspect we have. Before we start just adding it, oh, well, we'll do a half a day here and a half a day there, it's paying lip service to the process. Let's just hear what the legal ramifications are of doing 3, why they determined we should do 3. All right, they're the biggest ones, but let's just listen to that first before we start adding on, feeling the need, because of course we could add on all the others, but we don't have the time. And of course we can work weekends. This is a committee period, am I right? It's a 2-week session set aside specifically for committee work. There are no sittings, I don't believe. So yes, it's a dedicated period to do that. The fact that it's 3 minutes away from a national election is enough to give all of us a heart attack, but that can't be helped. So I think if we can listen to the legal ramifications of doing just 3 provinces first, that might guide us in our deliberations. Thank you.
Let's then, that's in relation to how far can you go, what must you cover, and what did the Concord say in relation to public participation?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning to you, Chairperson, and honourable members. Chair, the issue of public participation has been discussed or decided on by the courts on several decisions. And we have somewhat gotten some kind of guidance in the LAMOSA judgment, the Land Access Movement of South Africa judgment, where Parliament was challenged for not facilitating public involvement effectively or as it should, or at least meeting the constitutional threshold. Chair, I want to say that in most of the decisions of the courts where Parliament was found wanting on public participation, Parliament would have gone to all the provinces to conduct public hearings. So the visiting of all the provinces on its own does not sufficiently meet the constitutional threshold. It is various actions that Parliament takes to facilitate public involvement in its process that matters, and not just the visiting. Just by way of example, Chair, I will relate to the amendment of the Restitution Act, where the Constitutional Court found Parliament wanting for not going to some of the regions within a province, which was the Northern Cape, because there were far-flung areas within the Northern Cape where people were interested in restitution, but were not consulted because Parliament then went to the urban areas in the districts of the Northern Cape. So, Chair, there are various mechanisms within the Parliament public participation strategy, which is the guiding document within Parliament of doing public participation, to deal with the issue of areas where Parliament cannot practically visit. Chair. So, where the committee decides on visiting provinces, we would need to still augment the public participation program so that we reach other areas, even within the province that we're visiting, where Parliament is not, so where the committee is not able to go physically. So in respect of this, Chair, for the purpose of advice, I would request, Chair, that perhaps we be given an opportunity to go and develop a public participation plan that will talk to the various steps that the committee can take in facilitating public involvement, over and above just visiting the provinces to conduct hearings.
I think that is very clear.
I didn't hear in that, which was an extensive response, and I agree we need to draw that up, but are 3 provinces legally sufficient? That, I think, was the main one I wanted. Thank you.
So, Chair, in respect, the direct answer to that is that the decision of how many provinces to visit is the decision of the committee. So there is no threshold in law that says you must go to 9 or to 3 or to 1 province. But you need to have you need to have facilitated involvement so that it reaches everybody within the country. And there are various ways of doing that, so, Chairperson, other than public hearings. So the decision about 3 or 5 or even 9 is a decision that the committee must take based on the considerations which we will present in the public participation plan. So in the plan, Chair, which I'm saying that will augment the areas where the committee cannot physically go, we will state what other mechanisms are available that could be used to reach as far as possible.
Honorable Hadebe?
Thank you. Your example that you made about the Northern Cape and people that are most likely to be affected, in your assessment, who are the people that are most likely to be affected, and the 3 provinces, will they sufficiently cover such in your understanding, and to be on the safe side? Hence, I spoke about it would have been ideal if we deal with all metros, given the choice of provinces, that we're dealing with urban provinces. And then to be on the safe side, I would have at least be comfortable with saying we will deal with all metros. Thank you.
Over to you. Wouldn't you cover that in the plan? But maybe you can answer this one.
We would have to provide in the plan, Chair, a proposal for consideration by members, as we have done now with the program, to say that the plan is to do A, B, C, and D, taking, of course, the discussions today into considerations, including the consideration the suggestion from Honorable Khatebe about consulting metros. Chair, this bill essentially is a security services bill. So the key stakeholders that will be affected by this bill might not necessarily be people living in the villages, but it does not mean, Chair, that they don't have an interest in the matter. So this is why we must bring a plan that is balanced for consideration, which looks at all of those considerations, Chairperson. As I mentioned, Chair, there are various ways of doing public participation other than just the public hearings.
You are actually telling me that what you are putting forward, if somebody takes Parliament to court, might hold water. That an old woman who is plowing in a village might not even be interested in. I think from what you are saying, can we say that you go and do the plan, a plan which will augment or amend some of these things? It's only one thing, that whether you increase the provinces, or, but maybe if we get that plan, then we can start talking. That's my understanding.
Yes, Chair. No, thank you for that indulgence, Chair, for us to go and develop the plan. A plan that will speak to, number one, the issue of public hearings, that will speak to the issue of other means of consultation that could also be engaged in trying to reach as far as possible in this regard.
Meaning that you also look into whether you can get professionals to do survey and so on.
In the past, it's been done, Chair, when we were doing the amendment to Section 25 of the Constitution. Parliament did hire private service providers to assist in the process. However, Chair, that must be done through our public participation business unit within Parliament, which is the primary unit that does public participation, Chair. So on the issue of the provinces, Chair, perhaps, I don't know if the committee would guide us in terms of how many provinces and make a decision on it here, or the committee would want to do that when we present the plan, because that guidance is important for us as we develop the plan, Chair.
There was already a suggestion of 4 or 5. What do we say? 5, 4? 4? We're okay. 5? Okay. If it's not possible, you will come and tell us.
Yes. Chair, can I say 5 but not less than 4? If you are unable to find a space, but don't go below 4.
Okay? It gives you an idea. Did you want to say something before I give them?
Yes, thank you very much, Chairperson. So, let me just say, the plan, that is what we're going to do in addition to this on how we're going to execute it. But the decision in terms of the provinces, that remains that of the committee. So in terms of the program, we can juggle the program in whichever way possible, including weekends, etc. If you look at the program, you will see that for each and every province, we had 2 days. We can stretch that out. We can even do 2 provinces in a week. So what I want to request, Chairperson, is that I do not want us as staff to go and draw up a plan suggesting provinces, etc. The committee must make that decision. So we draw up a plan based on the provinces that were decided to be visited. Because then that plan will talk to how we're going to execute that. So if the decision is 5, it's okay. Then we'll request from the committee to indicate amongst the 9 provinces, which other 2 additional the committee wishes that we add. Then we can go draw up a proper plan in terms of how we're going to do that, including the other elements that we'll use for public participation. Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, I've got Honorable Hendricks, followed by Honorable Mute, followed by Honorable Kolabanad, followed by Honorable Hadebe with an H.
Honorable Chair, I accept that the proposal is an improvement from 3 to 4 or 5, and the committee has those powers. So it's up to the committee then to decide because of the constraints you have. However, I cannot agree that this bill is of no interest to villages. It's as if they are not human beings, that they are different kind of people. People that brought about the revolution and who participated in the armed struggle came from the villages. We can't now, with this very important legislation, ignore villages. So if we decide on 4 or 5, instead of just sticking to the metros, the big areas, in those provinces there must be very important villages, that we should consider also having public participation. I know it's very difficult. I serve on water and sanitation, and we go to these villages, and I know that the traveling is very onerous. The conditions is not there, but we need to reach out to the people, and I take strong exception to Parliament that they are ignoring villages as if they are not human beings. Thank you.
Honorable there?
Thanks, Chair. I want to agree with Honorable Hendricks because I'm not comfortable with the proposal that says we must go to metros only and ignore other sectors of society. We will be suggesting that this bill is meant for those in urban areas, and that is not the fact. But maybe what will guide us to take a proper decision insofar as this public participation is concerned is to ensure that what has been proposed as other mechanism of reaching all sectors of society and all corners of our country, integrating it into the public hearings. It must integrate public hearings and those other methodologies that will reach out to other stakeholders in the far corners of the country in all provinces, so that we are safe that we have touched all corners in the country insofar as the objective of this exercise is concerned, rather than to focus it on metros or reduce it to certain provinces without means of covering others. If we say 5, we must ensure that they are both urban and rural, and fairly so, and we are able to reach out to all societies in all corners of this country with other methodologies that will be able to stand the test of time if we are challenged in that regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I just find out? So it means there's no way in which today we can adopt the program as we are discussing. Can I, before we continue?
Thank you, Chair. Chairperson, the draft program that's before the committee may be adopted by the committee with amendments, which amendments we can then go and update in line with the directions of the committee. Also, Chair, I must at least ask for your indulgence in this regard. Chair, it is not my advice that villages must not be consulted. If I'm understood to be suggesting that by honourable members, I must withdraw that and apologize. My advice, Chair, is that it is practically impossible, given the time constraints or truncated time period within which this must be done, to reach all of the villages and the towns and the cities of this country through public hearings. However, there are other available mechanisms in public participation which could be engaged to ensure that the committee reaches as far and wide as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Who were to follow? Huh?
Thanks, Chair. I'm a reasonable person. I'm easily persuaded by facts and very constructive proposal and proposition, Chair. I would then propose that let's take 5, 3 metros and 2 rural provinces. And then the rest will be attended to using other means of public. But for public hearings...
the provinces. Suggest the 2 other provinces.
In addition to the 2, we can consider, yes, in addition to the 3, we can take Limpopo. At least there is urban areas even in that, and also the Eastern Cape. Yeah. So we have taken 3 urban provinces and 2 rural provinces.
It's Limpopo as a showcase.
Yes. And just to add, Chair, that even KZN has rural areas. So when we're in KZN, we must also ensure that we cover those rural areas.
Honorable Kolabanat, a suggestion of the third, of the fifth,
Well, first of all, I just want to address the initial comments. We have a very esteemed colleague here who in no way, shape or form ever suggested that rural people are not human. I find that deeply offensive. He can't respond on his own, so I'm responding on his behalf. I found that deeply offensive. He said very clearly the major stakeholders who will be involved with this are based in rural area, in the urban areas, which is why that is what they had targeted. I have seen many public hearings held in deep rural areas where nobody arrives. You have a handful of people. We have to do this practically. If we're going to do it, we should be looking at population per province. What are the next two most populous provinces? Would be probably Eastern Cape, and I don't know which the next one would be. Mpumalanga, maybe. So that to me would be the most logical move to make. But I don't think we need to be offensive towards our colleagues and our staff in this matter. Really, I'm horrified.
I think point taken, Limpopo was suggested, Mpumalanga was suggested. We've got the 5 provinces. Are we fine with that? From here, where we were told we can adopt the draft with these amendments that we have made. Are we at that point, Honorable Stebe?
Yeah, I think we can adopt the draft with the amendments. I just want to come back to the rural communities. This bill is going to be publicized, and people can put in their comments, and people in far outlying areas can comment on that, and we look into it. It's not that we neglect them, but I've also got experience where we went for public participation in outlying areas, and now I'm specifically talking about the Northern Cape. You pitch up in a place, in a rural, there's 1 person or 2 person, because Parliament is coming. There might be a person that's very interested in what is going on in this act. But this is one act of 1,000 acts that we've got in this country, and that go on a continuous basis. And I think we must adhere to what the norms and standard is, and we must keep to that. And those that we can't reach, they can be reached through the publicization of this thing.
Thank you very much. I think we close that point. It has been deliberated on, and I think it's clear, and we close not on that one, not on the rural and the urban, and that one we close. I mean, we opened it up for. So, you were not recognized. Can I just say, let's get to one other very important issue. Okay. Once bitten, twice shy. Okay,
Thanks, Honour.
Who is, are you seconding or are you?
I'm seconding Honorable Stebe, who said we can adopt the report, the program with amendments. So I want to second that, Honorable Chair. Thank you.
Okay, moved by Honorable Stebe and seconded by Honorable Zagude. Then we can get to a point of the meetings. Physical meetings, and there's a possibility of visual meetings. I need us to discuss that. on an issue of when looking at the program, you'll have NICOC, you'll have Office of the Interception Center, you'll have the Judge for Interception, you'll have State Security Agency, and I think at some stage maybe these services might ask for closed meetings. It's possible they might ask for closed meetings in relation to some of the things. If I'm wrong, I'll be corrected. Meaning that if it's a closed meeting, then it means a visual can't work. I wanted us to deliberate on that. Before we get into it, can I be advised from, is that the case? Do they have a right to do that? And so on, before we continue with it, before we can decide on the types of meetings we are going to have. Over to you.
Thank you, thank you, Chairperson. Yes, Chair, the services have a right to request, to apply to the committee for the meetings to be closed, where they'll be presenting information that is classified. It is up to the committee to then decide to grant such an application, Chair, or not. But there are instances, for instance, Chair, that I anticipate for practically, where the services have to respond to some of the questions, where they would have to present classified information before the committee. And for confidentiality and necessary secrecy, they may ask that those meetings be closed, Chair. But the decision to close or not to close remains that of the committee. Thank you, Chair.
Meaning that if we say we don't close, they might refuse to give us the information. Is that the case?
Certainly, Chair, in terms of the law, they would be correct to refuse to grant classified information in an open meeting.
Okay, I see there's too much interest on this one. I mean, it's a fair question. I mean, I thought about it. Where can I start? This way, and then Honorable Stebe and Honorable Bahadeve, Honorable Kolabanat, and Honorable Hendricks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. And thanks to our legal advisor for that advice. Indeed, Honorable Chairperson, we have taken an oath that we are not going to divulge any information to anyone which is necessary deemed to be classified information. So in that case, indeed, as a committee, we'll have to agree to the closing of the meeting because we cannot have that for public consumption. But if there is nothing secret and nothing classified about the meeting, the rules of virtual and hybrid platforms, we adopted them. In the House, they are rules of Parliament. In those cases, we can have an open meeting and a virtual meeting. So let's not close the door for the hybrid and virtual meetings. But if and when there's a request for a closed meeting, indeed the rules allows for committees to do so. Thank you.
Chair, I'm just a bit worried because this is an ad hoc committee. There's 2 members on this committee that is not classified, top secret. So we can't exclude them from the process. If my understanding that if say State Security want to disclose something to us as a committee, they can do it in our meeting, the JSCI meeting. If they don't, because what they want to put forward, they must also participate in to clean up this bill and get it to the best of the ability of South Africa. So, which is an open process. So in that, I'm just thinking about the two members here. I don't think we can exclude them from the ad hoc committee. But if there's something secret that they want to convey,
Can I help
that's
you
something
on that?
else.
Can
Yes,
I help
please.
you on that one? Honorable Steba, I should think you know that they've got to sign, what do we call it? What do they call it? So they will be covered. There's nowhere where they are going to be excluded. What do they call it?
There is a confidentiality form, confidential agreement form, Chair, that
yeah,
members sign when they are going to be handling classified information.
So I should think they must sign by now. Anyway, there's nothing that stops anybody to give them the confidentiality form, then it means they will be covered. Are you still on this point?
Yes, because my question was, then who is eligible to access classified information? Is it by virtue of signing that confidential, that then it grants you an access to classified information? And the last part, when that information is received, so we can't use it anywhere, even in our public meetings. I'm just asking what then becomes the value of that information given to us in our quest of dealing with this bill. Where else can we use such the information if it's classified?
Honorable Kola Bonnet?
I'm raising, yes, I'm raising, say we are in a public meeting and a certain issues is raised and we are privy of certain information, how then do we deal with such? Yeah.
I should think, I'm not sure whether I understand your question because you should be knowing yourself. Because you serve in that committee, you can't say that. What do you? That's why I'm saying I'm not sure whether I understand your question.
No,
It's classified
yes,
information.
Chair, my understanding was that the bill and the act will ultimately become a public document, and everything else that has to do with the construction of this bill ought to be a public, ought to be available for public consumption.
Definitely, it can't definitely be that way. I think I will answer that myself. The information that you might be given by SSA, if I was to give an example, they might say this is not going to be workable and give in explaining why, use classified information to make this committee understand that this is not possible in this environment. So for this committee would be knowing that no, this clause can't work without even telling anybody. Doesn't need to tell the public about that. And now we are dealing with a situation by the Concord, to give another example, where the Concord is saying after post-surveillance notification, after 3 months of surveilling a person, you must go and tell that person that I've been following you. So if a SSA has got to explain to RICA about that, they will have to come up maybe with classified information that says this is not possible. And we will understand ourselves without telling the public. That's my understanding. Let's get it
Perhaps I could just put mine before we get the answer.
on this one.
Well, it's on, yes, on the whole issue.
No, let him
Okay.
deal with this one.
No, Chairperson, I think I'm covered by your answer to say, in fact, the committee is dealing with the question hypothetically now, as there is no application before it. But it's anticipating that there might be instances where, for context, the services might say that in order for the committee to better understand, classified information must be provided to all members of the committee, just for better understanding of the process. But the process is very open. This lawmaking process must be as open as possible. Thank you, Chair.
That was my understanding. Honorable Kolabana.
Chair, the members of this committee have got top secret security clearance. We jumped through 1,000 hoops to get that. If there was, sorry, could I just finish?
I don't think you are right.
You're not right that we have top secret security clearance?
No. Honorable Muthe doesn't have, Honorable Hendrickson doesn't have.
I'm saying the JSCI members.
So no,
So
this committee is an ad hoc.
I understand that. That's what I'm trying to say. If we are to receive, we have a very strict rule. The only people who come into Africa House have top secret security clearance. But now you're saying that confidential information that should only be heard in Africa House must be heard by people who don't have top secret security clearance, and they can just sign a certificate. Then why didn't we just sign a certificate and say, look, we're good to go? Is there not a level of confidentiality that one has to go through to hear classified information? I don't want us to land up with a huge issue in terms of that. We do not allow people in the building. You made the ruling. Who don't have.
Can I just say this will be dealt with and it will be checked. We are not going to sit here and discuss that. Who should be in this ad hoc committee? They will check what is legal, what is not legal. But my understanding is that in this committee, that is good enough for them to have any information. Do you want to say something?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. So you're quite right. So this is an open committee. It's an ad hoc committee that considers the intelligence legislation. But the intelligence itself, which is governed by this legislation, is classified. So when it comes to information coming here, the information will be open to public because this is a public meeting. So, Chairperson, there are procedures and the rules and the sections in the Oversight Act on how we handle classified information. The issue of secrecy is section 5. It's clear in terms of what you can do and cannot do with the information you get from you performing your duties in terms of the Act. Remember, honorable members, all of you are appointed to the JSCI in terms of that Act. So whatever work you do in terms of the Act. You are not allowed to take information that you get in the performance of your duties to use elsewhere. That's why you get classified in terms of the level which you require, which is top secret. And on top of that, you take an oath. The oath is very clear. So when it comes to the way in which we'll handle the classified information, if need be, Chairperson, there are mechanisms for that, and we don't have to have the classified information in here because there's a JSCI that handles that information. So we'll make the necessary arrangement. If then the classified information that needs to be handled in terms of the JSCI need to go to Africa House, that's how we'll handle the matter. But we'll try by all means not to complicate this process or to make it not open to the public in terms of that. And the services themselves, they know very well that when they come in here, they need to provide the information that the public will be able to access. Anything else, we'll deal with it as and when it comes, Chairperson. But we are not going to suspend any of the rules and any of the laws that govern the handling of classified information. Thank you, Chairperson.
Can I then say that because these things are legislated and we can't change legislation, doesn't help us to debate it here? Can I just say it will be handled according to the law and the regulations and every other thing? It doesn't help us to discuss it. We can't change it anyway. Can I then say that we agree that we are going to look into using both visual and physical? What do we say? Honorable Kolabanat?
Yeah, Chair, I think that virtual meetings in dealing with legislation are extremely problematic. Being actually together, working on numerous documents simultaneously, it just becomes enormously cumbersome to try and do that online. There might be meetings we can hold where we simply have to approve a certain aspect or something, but the main working on the document, where we have endless documents, you know what it gets like, I think would be far too cumbersome, far too difficult online. I think we need to actually be here and do it person to person. Thank you.
I think I will agree with you. I will agree with you. That's no, as an individual, not as chairperson. Honorable Hendricks?
Thank you, Chair. Because of the constraints, holiday period, we are campaigning, we must not lightly discard the discretion of the chairman to have hybrid meetings. Obviously, if there is a lot of documentation and so on, the chairman may feel, no, in this particular case, it has to be a physical meeting, but I will leave it to the discretion of the chairman, because it will make life so much easier for us who are working the ground. And so I feel that I've been involved in 4 pieces of legislation, and the virtual meetings worked very well. As so I didn't have a problem, and the people that were working with me didn't have a problem. So, but the rule should be meetings like we're having now, but there will be occasions where we must allow the chairman to decide, look, he doesn't see any constraints in having a hybrid meeting. And then I was very interested in your comment about my status. I'm not allowed to tell this meeting whether I have top security clearance because I signed to that effect. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I should think that clarifies the whole thing. For instance, it's impossible, not impossible as such, but it would be very difficult to do clause by clause on visually, and the A list and the B bill and clause by clause analysis, and that would be very difficult to do visually. Then I agree with Honorable Hendricks that on some of those that it's possible to get to do them visually. For instance, if we check maybe presentation of the public participation report by content advisors, maybe that you can listen and ask questions, but some of them it's not possible to do that. Can we then close this one on? Okay.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I hear you, but what we are saying, Honorable Chair, let's not close the door on that one. We agree on everything that we have discussed. We agree on having physical meetings, but let's not close the door on that one. Thanks.
It's definitely not closed. I was thinking we are closing on this one.
I asked earlier, and
Okay,
as
okay,
did
no, it's fine.
Honorable Dlakuda, why we only worked half days in this. It may be that the staff need the afternoon to catch up with the paperwork to be ready for the next day's meeting, but I don't know. but it just seems very odd to me to set aside a whole week and we only work mornings. For what? I don't know.
Can I just say that, as we said, they must go and juggle with the dates. Do we give them the leeway to suggest even evenings and so on in terms of whatever they see in it? That must come from us. Are we saying we allow them to go and look into those possibilities? Then it's allowed, as you go through trying to do this, you can fit in one or two things in the evenings or afternoons then.
Sorry to come back. If we can have the program as soon as possible, we can also make an application for the committee to sit even during the sittings. We can check if there is no voting, nothing that is happening, like voting and other serious stuff, we can have the meeting. They know that we are dealing with the GLAP. What we need is a buy-in from the chief whips so that they understand.
Thank you very much. Can I ask permission to start with the minutes before the advertisement of the bill? If we were to adopt the minutes, it's only one page.
I move, Chair.
Can I do it by saying anything on the first page? Anything on the second page? Any move? You have already moved, Honorable Hendricks, seconded by Honorable Stebe. Then we get to the advertisement of the bill. Can I hear from Calvin?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you, honorable members. On the advertisement of the bill, what we're hoping for is to have it advertised by next weekend. So that is the date we have, because that will allow us to have that adequate period that is needed for it to be out there before we can have a closing date for public participation. We're hoping that we can have the closing date of public submission somewhere mid-January, so that people have the holiday period and early January to make public comments, because this we have to have it out before we go and do public hearings. With regard to the advertisement, Chairperson, we needed guidance from the committee in terms of how wide, not how wide, in terms of the different platforms that we'll use. So far, what we have, as we have done with the IGI during the process, we have done the newspapers, national and local newspapers, but with that we also realized that during the first round we didn't get much sort of like CVs back in terms of that, and the second round we went with social media, parliamentary website, etc., and we got more response. So here, what we were thinking this time is that we'll go the route of social media, the parliamentary website as well. As for newspapers and radio, will be guided by the committee, and given the cost that is actually involved with that, especially to do with radio, because the cost can be huge. But here we'll be guided by the committee, then we'll go and start getting quotations in terms of that, and then the bill will be advertised. I think that's about it. Tentatively, we're looking at mid-January to have that as the closing date for public comments, etc., etc. Thank you, Chairperson.
Would I be right to say that if you follow what what Parliament does when it comes to that, and add to what you said about the adverts for the IGI. Seemingly, social media is more powerful nowadays. Even small kids have got cell phones. More than one page in a weekend paper. We are talking about 6 figures. And radio, there's no way in which you can advertise in English and Munganalo Nene. That can go to Concord. If you do that, you will have to advertise in all of the radio stations, which is a huge expense. Can I say in your plan that you are going to do, you will include that? Do we have any other thing? Honorable Dlagudi?
Thank you, Chairperson. I want to support that the advertisements must go also the parliamentary way and also use social media platform for us to get the attention of many people, especially in the rural areas. We can use radio using the language that people understand. That's the mistake that we are making as Parliament, that we stick maybe to one official language while we have 11. So if we can do that, I think it might assist. And I'm not sure, but I heard that sometimes when there are public hearings, there's a team that will go first to mobilize communities. It doesn't matter where the public hearings will be, but that team, those teams will go and mobilize. If that can be done as well, so that people have a better understanding of what is happening. Thank you.
Yeah, I think as I said earlier on, there are, in some areas, there are community radio stations. Some you can do that for free, not all of them. Some, but I think the parliamentary staff would know what to do. I mean, they do it all the time. Honorable Kolabonat, as the last person.
I think the situation with radio is we'll find that there are the public service announcements, which we can utilize, which I think the cost is negligible. But there are community radio stations which, look, the national stations should, their footprint is national, should cover every single area, and we have stations in every single language. So if it's under the umbrella of public service announcements, we should be able to afford it. The community radio stations, I don't think you'll get free advertising. They will charge you through the neck, and that, because that's their job. But the public service should do and should provide it as a public service. That's what they're there for.
Yeah, that's why I said some. I think there will also be interviews in the process, and but we will be guided. I mean, we are not the first ones to do that, so we can't sit here and try and reinvent the wheel. With that, can I say we are done, and the meeting is adjourned.